This is how we were supposed to live. We were supposed to live in bliss. We were supposed to live in heaven on earth. Gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the fascinating subject of semen retention, cultivating our sexual energy, and what are the benefits, what are the fruits that this particular journey, this particular practice is going to bring us over time. Now, many of you who are familiar with my channel and some of my work on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, will know that this is something that I have integrated into my life fairly successfully, and there are various videos on my particular and personal experiences on that practice. For those of you who wish to learn a little bit more on how to quit degenerate habits like pornography use and masturbation, I have included a link in the description below on a course that has an actually hefty discount on No Nut November as I'm recording this, so please enjoy. But for those of you who are again familiar with some of the stuff that I've said in the past, or who have bought Sexual Energy Mastery and have experienced some success, I understand that I can have a particular bias towards it, let's say. And I'm not naive to that phenomenon. So what I thought would be really interesting in this video is for me to share some of the experiences, some of the benefits that other people have gotten, not just only on my through my course, another shameless plug there, but more specifically, I want to go into the subreddit of semen retention and show you some real case studies of what this practice can bring you. So guys, I'm just sharing my screen here. Now, before I go into some of the benefits some of the other practitioners of semen retention have experienced through their journey, I thought I would preface this by talking about the rationality again. Why are we proceeding to do this? What are we really fighting against? And one of the, let's say, prefaces to my course is this distinction between pleasure and joy. And I thought this was a really good excerpt for me to just read out and explain a little bit more on what we're trying to avoid here and why we're able to reap such ridiculous benefits just by cultivating and taming this one thing. So pleasure is great, but it is horrible to value and prioritize your life around. If you ask any drug addict how the pursuit of pleasure turned out, it's not a good one. One of the analogies that I frequently reference in regards to the mitigation of masturbation, pornography use, and orgasm, in that order, PMO, some of you may know it as, is that when you begin to refrain and quit this habit, you start looking at it from an outside perspective of an individual who is sober, who is watching a heroin addict druggie on the street. And it doesn't make any sense to go back. I've referenced many times that the experience that you will get neurochemically when you're committing to engage in PMO is the same as a heroin addict, a drug addict, anyone who's taking class A drugs. There is no difference in the brain scans. And I would highly encourage you to read the book Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson for further insight into that. But let's get back to the text here. Ask an adulterer who shattered her family and lost her children whether pleasure ultimately made her happy. Ask a man who almost ate himself to death how pleasure helped him solve his problems. So pleasure is a false god. Actually, it's funny, I haven't read this post before, but one of my chapters is called The False God of Pleasure, the false god of immediate gratification. Research is showing that people who focus their energy on superficial pleasures end up more anxious, more emotionally unstable, and more depressed. Pleasure is the most superficial form of life satisfaction. I like to say it's the most superficial form of joy. It's empty, it's hollow. There's no depth to it. And therefore it's the easiest to obtain and the easiest to lose. And yet pleasure is what's marketed to us 24/7. It's what we fixate on. It's what we use to numb and distract ourselves. But pleasure, while necessary in life, and again, I'm not against pleasure, I'm just against needless pleasure. It's cheap compared to joy. It by itself is insufficient. Pleasure is not the cause of happiness, rather it is the effect. If you get the other stuff right, the other values and metrics, then pleasure will naturally occur as a byproduct. I like to describe this more as joy, as wholesome joy. So I hope this gives you a little bit more fire in the belly for why we are doing this in the first place. If you look around in your environment, what is being preached to us on a daily basis? It's how can we absorb as much pleasure as we can from our surroundings, either through softcore pornography, pornography itself in its more explicit form, if it's not junk food, high calorie, sugary shit, and just a plague of, drama TV and all this other bullshit that seeks to sell us empty and hollow pleasure. It's not joy. Now, the part that, of course, all of you have been waiting for is, well, what benefits am I starting to get out of this when I begin to cultivate and master my sexual energy? So from this gentleman here, he describes it as being heaven on earth. And the analogy I use again in one of my books is this idea of returning back to the Garden of Eden. Read The Bliss of the Celibate by Julian Blake, I believe his name is. Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong. But semen retention is literally heaven on earth. Music sounds so much better. You can hear each and every beat of music. The nuances are there's so much quality in them. Food tastes so good that even normal food beats the taste of any 5-star hotel food, or junk food, let's say. Skin feels so much better, and there's a radiant glow on the skin. In the yogic culture, I believe they refer to this as ojas, when the individual glows. Constant smiling. You'll be constantly smiling and don't know, for whatever reason. Energy and motivation are high. Euphoria, as there is a genuine zeal for life. Semen retention is just like an orgasm 24/7. I can attest to this. Again, I have a lot of bias because this is something that I've experienced. The main, let's say, rationality for why this is occurring is your neurochemical brain centers are healing. Your dopamine centers, which have been fried from years and years of abuse and degeneracy, are coming to a point where they're becoming to be more sensitive to the more novel things in your life. I mentioned before that a walk in the park is euphoric to me because my reference points for my dopamine hits are so much lower because I haven't just blasted my brain with adult material that is causing my dopamine to spike so irrationally. So you have to heal by abstaining from this material, and you'll come back down to a baseline. And it's, it's funny, all of these things that you think are so trivial and so, maybe meaningless. Music just sounding so much better, so much more fuller, and the quality is just so much more satiating. Food as well, having a bite of an apple, having a pear, having some fruit, having some chicken, so much quality, so much dopamine is being secreted in those moments because, again, your neuroreceptors have healed. This is how we were supposed to live. We were supposed to live in bliss. We were supposed to live in heaven on earth. This is the Garden of Eden. Let's go over to the last one here. I don't want to make this video too long. So this gentleman doing long streak SR since January 2020. 2020. So this is the longest streak he's been on. He's broken this down into 4 different segments here. So the body. Skin somehow glows differently. The face has gotten a little bit, only a little bit oily and decreasing in acne, deeper in voice, okay? So again, this aura, this ojas, this natural, this is a transmutation of prana, if anyone's familiar with some of the Vedic and yogic terminology. But you're transmutating your the energy of prana, your sexual energy, your life force energy into ojas, which is conceived of as an inner glow. You ever meet someone and they're just radiant glowing? I suppose the only reference points you may have is someone who is pregnant, but in men we're pregnant with our own life force, if you get my meaning. Decreasing acne. Again, your hormones are balancing. You're no longer spiking, prolactin and all these other hormones that are throwing you off balance. You're coming back to equilibrium. Deeper voice. Testosterone is rising and you are beginning to embody some of the masculine essence from this practice. Hair. So last year I've got issues with the receding hairline. Now my hair is better and there seems like there's new hair follicles around my hairline. Before SR, my beard was growing unevenly, got patchy on my right side, and now my beard is thicker and grows evenly. This is something that is happening to me. I mean, it's still filling out at this time, but you know, a year ago it was an absolute mess, and I can attribute some of the success that I've had through, again, cultivating this higher level of testosterone, this masculine energy, which is permeating through the my pores and my hair follicles. Social, easier to start an interaction. My speech was better and more calmer, and I can think straight before speaking. Before SR, when I talk to people, I'm feeling nervous and starting to speak faster sometimes, and that makes other people not understand me. And my biggest problem was it was hard for me to explain something chronologically through speaking. You get socially flustered, socially anxious when your hormones again are out of balance. When you have that social anxiety by seeing women from this perspective of an object of your own sexual gratification, and when you begin to fast, refrain, and cultivate this energy back to you, you have a natural charisma that is ineffable. It's very difficult to describe this feeling, but things just flow very quickly. And I will attribute a lot of this to the seminal fluid that you're no longer using through ejaculation, because it's actually a part of your cerebrospinal fluid that your brain sits in. So your brain is no longer dehydrated. It has those amino acids and those nutrients in order for those chemical receptors to pass messages faster and more fluidly, in order for you to, again, speak more chronologically and more succinctly. And another thing that happens is your social wit and charm just begins to elevate. You become naturally charismatic. I think I mentioned that before. It's, again, very difficult to describe and put your finger on how these things are beginning to work, let's say more, rationally. But try it for yourself and you will see that you just have the answers when you want them, when you need them. And motivation, when I was still in PMO, it feels like nothing is interesting to me. SR made me realize that there are many, many different things that I missed. I never had hobbies. I was always doing everything half-assed. But right now, SR, everything seems interesting. I'm starting to learning to do gardening, and he even has a little garden outside. Wow, that's beautiful. So I'm just going to, pause this. Well, let me just conclude on this last point here again, going back to the healing of new neuroreceptors. And I know maybe this is a good point for me to put in the fact that, semen retention is a very difficult practice, and I had many failures before I had my successes, but NoFap can be something that you start to kind of build your way up to the more extreme aspects of cultivating your sexual energy. So NoFap is abstaining from pornography and masturbation. You can still have intercourse with your girlfriend, or if you're a little bit, let's say, of a PUA, pickup artist kind of person. No judgment here, but that might be something that is a little bit more palatable, a little bit more easy for you to maneuver into before going on to something like SR. But you're healing, you're getting so much more sensitive to your dopamine, and you might find yourself picking up strange habits that you never thought you'd want to do before. I often find I need to control the time of my day because there's so much stuff I want to do. I want to learn how to play the drums. I want to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow. Call me strange, call me weird, but you start thinking about things that you would never think to try before, because you just become so much more sensitive to the pleasure you can get out of novel hobbies. And that's the easiest way, or the best way, for me to explain that. So gentlemen, I want to end here on that note. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you subscribe to what I'm saying, and hopefully the channel as well, because this is the path for all of us. We're all on the path of the divine masculine, and it's my one of my life missions, my dharma, I guess you could say, to actualize not only myself but everybody watching me through the screen here. And the way we do that is first mastering our vices, beginning to cultivate this dormant, powerful energy within us, and then becoming the divine masculine, the mature masculine that the world needs so deeply right now. So gents, I'll see you again soon.